Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. Sorry about doing it in the car. I didn't get time, so I thought let's get this video out there. But guys, smash the like button on this video. Let's get the likes up to 150 likes for this video. It's a big video as well. Some big news. Mr. Saul Canelo Alvarez is planning to go up to cruiserweight. So Eddie Reynoso said yesterday that they are planning to go up to cruiserweight and fight Alungu Makabu. Makabu, to the UK fans, will remember who Makabu is, because Makabu, as you guys will all remember, especially the guys in the UK that you know follow British boxing, was the guy that Tony Bellew fought when Tony Bellew won his world title. He beat Alungu Makabu. And I think we remember him because of that, but he can fight. Lungu Makabu even put Tony Bellew down in that fight. He hit him with the left hand. You've got to applaud Canelo. You've got to applaud Canelo at the fact that he's moving up to cruiserweight and taking on a challenge, because Canelo's all about creating history. Canelo's all about creating history, and Canelo is moving up to cruiserweight to fight a guy that's a lot bigger than him, that's a lot stronger than him. And Alungu Makabu is a very big guy. It becomes very dangerous for Canelo, because Canelo's now moving up to a weight class where, you know, if we're talking about him being very small for 175, then he's very small for the cruiserweights. This move is also going to bring a lot of criticism as well, because a lot of people are going to say the same thing as they said at 175, that he went and fought Kovalev and cherry-picked a title at 175 pounds. A lot of people then said, well, he moved to 168 because he knew that was the weakest division. And now he's going to cruiserweight and he's fighting the weakest champion of the cruiserweights, because we know Bradis and Okoli, they're the better champions out of the three. So he's fighting the weaker champion who he thinks he can beat. That's what a lot of people are saying. But the thing is, I just got to applaud him taking that risk and applaud him moving up to a cruiserweight, because at that weight, it doesn't matter. Any champion is dangerous for Canelo, because Canelo is a very small. He's not a cruiserweight. He's very small. Very small. So you've got to applaud the move, and you've got to applaud the bravery to move up there. But I've got to be honest with you, I'm a bit surprised. Because although it's an opportunity for him to create history, and we know Canelo's all about, excuse me, we know Canelo's all about creating history, and Canelo's all about, you know, he's got an opportunity to become a 5-weight world champion. However, I agree with what Stephen mentioned in a live stream, I think a couple of months ago actually, that Canelo needs to clean up in-house. And what he means by that is that he needs to first clean out his whole division first. Now, there's a guy called David Benavidez that is a lot of people seem to think that that's a very dangerous fight. Now, Canelo has become undisputed, so you can technically argue he's cleaned up house. However, a lot of people think David Benavidez is the second best, or they think David Benavidez is the guy to beat Canelo. And they were even saying that prior to Plant fighting him. So Canelo will come under criticism, because people will say, oh, he's ducking Andre Charlo. Those people are going to criticize anyway. My view on it is that if you were to ask me what fight would I rather see, probably the Benavidez fight, if I'm honest with you. I think the Benavidez fight is a more, I don't know if it's, I would favor Canelo to win against Benavidez, and I favor him to beat Makabu. But I think really I think Benavidez is probably the fight that I want to see. But what I don't really understand is that Canelo and his trainer were talking about fighting Beterbiev at 175 and fighting Bivol, but they've kind of foregone that and then moved to cruiserweight. But I don't really understand what the plan is. Is the plan to stay at cruiserweight and unify, or is the plan, because it's weird, because I think this isn't always good for your body to move up to a weight, and then if you don't decide to stay there, then come back down. I don't really think that is great, to be honest with you. I'm not a fan of that when fighters go up and then come back down, because surely Canelo's not going to stay up at cruiserweight and take on guys like Okoli, who are 6'5", and 6'6", and Bradis, who's massive, you know. However, I will say this: if Canelo does decide to fight at cruiserweight, there is a possibility that maybe an Alexander Usyk fight can come off. And I will do a separate video about that. I'll do a separate video that maybe I'll upload that tomorrow. Maybe I'll do that with my brother, or maybe we'll discuss it in the live stream today. That fight then becomes a possibility, because can Alexander Usyk come back down to cruiserweight? I don't know. I don't know the situation. Maybe he can't make cruiserweight anymore. Maybe Canelo can meet him at a catchweight. I don't know. But maybe if Canelo does decide to stay at cruiserweight, that fight becomes a very possibility. However, there are fights down at 175 and 168 that Canelo would be seen as better fights than the Makabu fight. So I am a bit surprised. I'm a bit surprised that he's going that this is probably going to be his next move. Now, this isn't confirmed, of course, but this is what they're looking to do. So I'm a bit surprised because I thought there were some big fights and some fights that I think he would have considered. Like the Benavidez fight, like the Beterbiev and Bivol fight. And people wanted to see those fights. The Makabu fights come out of the left field, but I always felt he will go to cruiserweight. And although you guys were saying, oh no, you know, that's too big, he can't. I knew he would go to cruiserweight. I just know Canelo's all about history. And at the end of the day, what Canelo wants, this is what Canelo wants. Canelo wanted to become undisputed because it adds to his legacy. Canelo wants to go to cruiserweight and it adds to his legacy. However, there's a lot of fans that are also going to say that he didn't fight Benavidez, or he didn't fight Charlo, or he didn't fight Andrade. So for me, there's a lot of work for him to... It depends, because if Canelo decides to stay at cruiserweight, then those fights, nobody would care about them. But the problem we've got is that if Canelo moves to cruiserweight and then fights Makabu, but then doesn't stay there and fight the other champions, it's kind of like people will say, well, he's picking the weaker champion and then going back. I don't know what he's... Maybe, listen, I think this is what it is. I think Canelo looks at it that Makabu's the weaker guy. I can go up and pick up a title. I'll become a 5-weight world champion, right? Then I can go back down and then I can clean up back down there. That's what he did with Kovalev, right? He went and fought Kovalev, beat Kovalev, then he went to 168 and cleaned up house there. That's what Canelo probably is going to do, because I cannot imagine him staying at cruiserweight. I cannot imagine him staying at cruiserweight. And where does this end? If he goes and, just say if he does the imaginable and beats a Coley or beats Bradis, what are we going to then say? He needs to go to heavyweight and fight Tyson Fury. Is that, you know, where does this end? So I personally think he has no, obviously, I don't know. I'm just giving you my opinion. I just think that hasn't got I don't think his aim would be to stay at cruiserweight. I think it's more the legacy thing of him winning a world title at cruiserweight, because Canelo's quite high on that. And that's what I think Canelo's going to do. I think Canelo's probably going to go to cruiserweight, look to beat Makabu, become a 5-division world champion, and then go back down. But then you've also got to look, what does he go back down to? Because a guy that's just fought at 200 pounds, is that good for him to go down at 168? Or is then he gonna say, I'm gonna fight at 175 now? Because he's like, the jump from 168 to 200 pounds is massive. You're talking about 32 pounds. The cruiserweight limit is 200 pounds. So it's not the jump that he'll be fighting bigger and stronger men, which is dangerous, of course. But it's also the fact that he's also, if he's going to come back down, you know, he's going to have to then make 175. You know, which may be easy for him to make, because Canelo's not a big 175. But still, I don't know whether that's a good idea. I don't know what Canelo plans to do. Maybe he's going to do the unthinkable and decide to stay at cruiserweight, which would be, like I said, that would shock me. If he decides to do that and stay at cruiserweight, wow, that would really impress me, because then you can forget about the Benavidez Beterbiev Bivol, because those fights become small in the sense that from a legacy point of view, for him to fight an Okoli or for him to fight a Bradis would be the one more than a Coley, because Bradis is more accomplished than Coley. Coley's, you know, a young guy coming up, and he's not as accomplished as Bradis. Bradis is a bigger name. He's more well known on the boxing circuit. So if he was to fight Bradis, wow, that would blow that basically outdoes any fight for me. That would even outdo the Beterbiev fight, because I don't think Beterbiev beats Bradis. But wow, it's big news. It's obviously massive news that Canelo has decided to do this. But again, I'm more fascinated not so much about the Makabu, but what then Canelo decides to do after. Because for me, I don't think there's any route back to 168 or 160. That's it. I think the only weight he'll probably fight at is light heavyweight, because surely he's not going to go back down to 168 and lose 32. Because if he's going to be fighting at 200 pounds, he's going to be weighing in close to that. He's going to have to put on muscle, right? And I will also want to see how he looks at cruiserweight, because at 175 against Kovalev, although he knocked Kovalev out, he looked a little bit sluggish. So how's he going to look with another 25 pounds on top? You know, these are all things that we're going to have to see. You know, the jump from light heavyweight to cruiserweight is massive, by the way. Massive. Like, if someone like Kovalev went to, and Kovalev's a big-sized, or even Beterbiev went to cruiserweight, they'd be small. Like, Makabu isn't a huge cruiserweight. And Makabu is 6 foot and he's massive. Like, I'm talking massive. So, it's going to be really fascinating to see how Canelo looks in the fight against Makabu. What you've got to also understand is that Canelo's got a granite chin, and he can go up and fight at cruiserweight. There's no doubt about it. He can go up because he's got a good chin, but at the end of the day, your chin can only take so much. If those guys land something flush on Canelo, could knock him out. Because we're talking about a guy that's 200 pounds, that we don't know what weight he's going to come in the ring as well. Is he going to come in 200 pounds or is he going to come in 220 pounds? You know, these are all things that, you know, when you're moving up there, you're walking a tightrope against a really big guys. Irrespective of Makabu might not be the best out of the cruiserweight champions, he's a big guy and he can crack with that left hand. I've seen him put Bellew down, who's a fully fledged cruiserweight for a heavyweight. So, yeah, man, Canelo's really taking a big risk. He's taking a big risk, because you imagine if he gets knocked out by someone like Lungu Makabu. You know, he's taking a massive risk. Because Canelo probably goes into that fight as a favorite. As crazy as it sounds, a guy moving up from a super middleweight to cruiserweight, fighting a champion is going to be the favorite. Crazy. Shows how great Canelo is. But it's a risky move. It's a risky move because, like I said, those guys up there can bang. You know, Makabu can punch with that left hand. So that's a dangerous fight. However, I do see Canelo winning that fight. But again, does he stay at cruiserweight, guys? I don't know what you guys think. Does he stay at cruiserweight? Those guys are huge. Bradis, Coley, these guys are like 6'4", 5 guys. You know, Coley's massive. He's massive. He's probably almost nearly a foot taller than Canelo. Literally. He's big. Coley is big for cruiserweights. Coley is too big for some cruiserweights. Imagine that. So, like, if you put Coley in the ring with Makabu, Coley would dwarf Makabu. Like, I'm talking, he's probably 6 inches, half a foot taller than Makabu. Coley could be a heavyweight. That's how big he is. And he wouldn't be a small heavyweight. So, for me, that's, like, Canelo is taking a huge risk. But you've got to applaud him, and you've got to give him credit for that risk that he's taking. You've got to say, man, this guy's got a lion's heart. But, you know, at the same time, there are fights for him at lower weight classes as well that, you know, that we want to see, like the Beterbiev, Bivol, Benavidez fights. These are also fights that we would like to see. So, again, I don't know. I don't know where people's stance is going to be. I know he's going to come in for some criticism. I know he's also going to get a lot of praise. But I'm kind of in between, where I can see some of the fights that I would rather see at the lower weight classes, but then also I can see it from Canelo's point of view, which is the most important point of view, which is legacy, and what this does for his legacy, becoming a 5-division world champion, which I think is far, when the history books, when it's all said and done, you know, Canelo will be remembered as a 5-division world champion. And and an undisputed champion. He's already become undisputed. So I get where Canelo's coming from. You know, I can see why he wants to do it. It's all about creating history and a legacy. So yeah, leave your thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. I'll enjoy me in the live stream later on today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.